Hello, guys. Welcome back. It's the NW Sportscast. We are talking today about the Seahawks and the loss to the Bengals, given my insight, my analysis, my take on how this game kind of went down, and why I'm actually not very worried about the Seahawks going forward. So, let's jump right into it. I did watch mostly the entire game. I had to listen to the radio for a little bit of it, but I was mostly watching the whole game. I wasn't able to do any kind of pregame, postgame reactions, that kind of stuff. I was dealing with some family things going on over the weekend. But watching this game, it was like it was painful and it was good at the same time because the Seahawks outplayed Cincinnati on every single aspect of the game except for one, and we'll get to that. We were moving the ball better. We were playing better defense. We were getting more stops. We were getting better yardage for both passing and running game. Gino was playing pretty well for the most part. The rushing game fell apart late. Kenneth Walker, he kind of fell off late in the second half. But even still, more yards per play, more yards. We controlled the clock, time of possession, everything. Both halves, we played better. And yet, we come away with the loss. And it's important to look at the loss and say to yourself, okay, we're playing against a good team, a Bengals team that did just beat they beat the Rams, and obviously the Cardinals are a bit of an easier win. But they beat the Rams, who we know, I mean, the Rams beat us. So we know this is a legitimate team. They were in the AFC Championship last season. Joe Burrow's finally healthy. Jamar Chase playing really well. And they have a good defense. They do. They have a great defense. And so I was kind of worried about this game. I actually predicted the Bengals would win. And they did. So, again, feels good to be right. But it feels bad to be right when I'm predicting the Seahawks to lose. But the point is, a lot of people are freaking out over this. They're like, oh, the Seahawks lost. They're not a top 10 team anymore. Well, how could they be a top 10 team? They're 3-2. 3-2, that's not very good. 3-2 is pretty good. We're the 6th seed. I think we're better than Dallas, though. Dallas is a 5. I think we're better than Dallas and we're better than Tampa. So I think we're in the same spot. And we still beat Detroit head to head. Like, people forget about that because it was early in the season. It's like, this is the same team that beat the Detroit Lions. And we're going to beat the Cardinals and be 4-2. And then we play against the Browns. And that's going to be a huge game. My goodness, that's going to be a huge game. Browns and then Ravens. But I think we split with Browns and Ravens, so then we'll be 5-3. And then after that, though, it gets really favorable. After the Browns, Ravens, 5-3, then we got Washington, which I think we can beat. That could put us at 6-3. And then the rematch against LA, which I think we can beat. Then we're 7-3. Thanksgiving against the 49ers and then the Cowboys, I think we could even win those games. I mean, I still think this is an 11 or 12 win football team. So, laugh at me all you want. Tell me that, but it's not all about record. It's about projection. It's about how the team looks. It's about the way the team is playing. Seattle's a top 10 football team. People are going to say that they're not. The power rankings are going to drop us as low as 18th this week. Come on, man. We beat the Lions. What are you talking about? We beat the team that everyone right now thinks is the best team in football. We beat them. So let's hold our horses on the Seahawks are bad talk. We were a Geno interception away from winning that game. All we needed was a field goal in the third. If we had kicked a field goal in the third quarter on that drive when Geno threw a pick in the red zone, then we'd only have been down by 1. Then you're not going for it on 4th down and goal twice in a row to end the game. You're kicking a field goal and winning. So, it's unfortunate. We went to the red zone 3 times in the second half, and all 3 times came away with 0 points. The chances of that happening is very, very slim. And all we needed was 4 to win. So we either needed 2 field goals and one 4-and-out / interception, or we needed 1 touchdown. That's it. That's it. I mean, if there had even been 20 more seconds on the clock during that second to last drive when we went for it, if it had been 2 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock, we kick the field goal, take the points. Defense does its job, and we win the game with 2 field goals in a row on the last 2 drives. But instead, since we were under 2 minutes, we thought we had to go for it. I thought we should have just kicked it and trusted our defense. That's what I said during the game. Obviously, the timing wasn't on our side, but we got the ball back with enough time to drive right back down the field and put ourselves in the same exact position. So clearly, it was doable. And I thought the defense was playing so well. I mean, you have to be happy with the Seahawks defense for holding Joe Burrow and his offense to only 17 points. Our offense struggled. And the number one blame is on Geno Smith. That's not, I mean, I'm not worried about the Seahawks. And it's not that I'm worried about Geno, but Geno confirms what we already know is true about him, which is that he is not a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. The Seahawks are a Super Bowl caliber roster, in my opinion. We have great players in every single position and a good coaching staff, in my opinion. But Geno is what holds us back because he's not going to make the big plays, right? He's not going to make the big plays in the big moments. And in a drive where we had to score 3, he threw a pick. So, and he threw 2 picks, actually. But the second pick hurt us really bad. Third quarter in the red zone, got to come away with 3 there. And like I said, even if we don't score a touchdown on that drive, all we need is a field goal. And then the next drive in the fourth quarter, when you're down by 4, instead of down by 4, you're only down by 1 there. And then you're looking at game-winning field goal instead of 4 and out, turn it over, 4 and out, game over. Also, by the way, Tyler Lockett, this is no guarantee, but there's I think it was in the first half, there's a PI call on Tyler Lockett that should have been called that wasn't called in the end zone. That potentially cost us 4 points on that drive because we had to settle for a field goal in that drive. So there's just a lot of things that the ball didn't bounce our way a couple times. There's a missed call here and there. And in the end, despite outplaying them for pretty much the entire game, Geno threw a pick in a critical spot in the game that really, really kind of flipped the game around for the Bengals. And so you're left with 3-2. But it's 3-2, and you look at the schedule and they say, okay, who are the teams that we still have to play? So I would categorize the Seahawks games into 3 categories. We have 12 games left. I would categorize those 12 games into 3 categories. Category 1 is, category A, if you will, is must win. I think there's 4. And obviously, no game is a true must win until you're on the brink of elimination. I get that. And I know there's people who will say, oh, I don't like to say it's a must win, blah, blah, blah. I don't actually care, though. Because in some scenarios, there are must wins. The Seattle Mariners this season, there's about 4 or 5 times when I said, I think this game's a must win. And 2 of those times we lost. And afterwards I said, yeah, I don't think we're making the playoffs after this. And what have we happened? We didn't make the playoffs. Sometimes it's pretty accurate. So I think there's 4 that I look at and say, these are must win. You've got the 2 Arizona games. Those are must win. You have to win that game. You cannot let a vastly inferior Cardinals team get an upset. I don't care that they're in your division. I don't care that Josh Dobbs has been playing better than people expect. I don't care if Kyler Murray comes back healthy. You have to beat the Cardinals. That is just how bad of a team they are. There's no excuse. And then the Rams, the second Rams game is in that must-win category as well. Because this is a team that beat you the first time, and they are going to be right in the thick with you for that wild card spot. So you have to beat the Rams the second. You have to get revenge on the Rams. I think that's a must win. And I think the Cowboys, I think that game at Dallas is a must win game. Because again, that game's going to matter a lot for playoff seeding. When you look at it, you say, Dallas is a good team. So you could lose to that Dallas game, and still make the playoffs. But that Dallas game more than likely is the difference between getting to play against the Bucks or having to play against, right? Because if you're the 7 seed or the 6 seed, you're playing against whoever doesn't get the 1 seed between Eagles, 49ers, and Lions. And I know I'm projecting the 49ers to win the West. The Seahawks could win the West if we win a lot of games, but we're a game and a half back. I'm not gonna try to project that. I'm saying if you are getting a wild card, you want to be the number 5 seed. You want to be the top wild card. Because then you get to play either the Saints or the Bucks, or maybe the Falcons. One of those 3 teams. Whereas if you're the 6th seed, man, you might have to go to Philly, you might have to go to Detroit. There's a big difference. Like, I think Detroit, Philadelphia, San Francisco are all pretty much locks to make the final 8. I think the only open spot in the playoffs is the 4 versus 5 game. Realistically, I mean, really? Like, come on. Nobody's winning in Philly in the playoffs. I don't think, except for San Francisco maybe. San Francisco is the only team I think that could go into Philadelphia and beat them in the playoffs, which is why seeding is so important. I think Detroit could beat Philadelphia at home, you know what I mean? But it's like, if Seattle's the 7th seed or the 6th seed and we have to play in Philadelphia or at San Francisco, you can basically write off our chances of winning a playoff game. And I hate to sound like a Debbie Downer like that, but it's true. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. We really struggle on the road in playoffs, and those 2 teams are very good at home. Maybe if you get Detroit, but what I'm saying is the 5 seed is that should be our goal. And if you want the 5 seed, you got to get it from Dallas, because Dallas is the 5 seed right now. We are the 6. So how do you get to the 5? You beat Dallas in Dallas. So that's a must win. You can lose one of your must win games and still make the playoffs. You can maybe even lose a couple of them. The way that's shaping out, 9-8 is probably going to get you back to the playoffs again. And we got it 9-8 last year. But would you rather be 9-8 and go to San Francisco in the first round, like you did last year, or would you rather be 11-6 and go to New Orleans in the first round? That's the difference. So 4 must-win games. Then you've got the 5 games that are we should win, but you can afford to lose a couple. Those are the Ravens, Browns, Commanders, Titans, and Steelers. I think we are better than all 5 of those teams. I really do. And people will say, well, the Browns just beat the 49ers. The Browns are a week-by-week team. They are good one week, bad the next. Seattle's actually pretty consistent. The only thing we're inconsistent is our quarterback play. Everything else, the underlying stuff is incredible for the Seahawks. The O-line's playing well, even with the injuries. Defense is improving every single week. So I think we're better than all 5 of those teams. The Ravens are 4-2, Levi. The Ravens are 4-2. The Ravens are 4-2, and they might be the worst 4-2 team I've ever seen. So anyone who thinks the Ravens are good is just, I don't understand. They're honestly, it's unbelievable. If you look at the Ravens schedule for a second, look at what the Ravens have done this season. This is the least impressive 4-2 that I maybe have ever seen. They beat the Texans 25-9, week 1 in CJ Stroud's first game, and they were losing at one point 6-3. They were tied at half 6-6, and then they end up turning on in the second half. Then they beat the Bengals on the road by 3 against an injured Joe Burrow. Then they lose to Gardner Minshew 22-19 in overtime, and they missed multiple chances to win that game. Then they beat the Browns 28-3. They blew out the Browns, but it wasn't against the Browns starters. It was against Dorian Robinson. Then you lose to Pittsburgh 17-10 in a game when Lamar Jackson played awful. His receivers dropped 4 touchdown passes, and the Steelers defense completely dominated you. And then you beat the Tennessee Titans 24-16 and the Titans quarterback was injured. Tannehill missed the second half of the game. And you had to rely on Justin Tucker to hit 5 out of 6 field goals because the offense couldn't do a thing other than get field goals. Your next game's against Detroit. They will almost certainly lose that one. Then you'll be 4-3. And you will have beaten 2 bad teams and 2 decent teams. And you'll have lost to 2 decent teams and 1 good team. And then the Cardinals they'll beat. So they'll be 5-3 going into their game against us. We should be 4-3 or 5. We should be 5-2. I mean, the Ravens are one of the most overrated. I think the Ravens are the most overrated team in football. I wouldn't be surprised if they missed the playoffs because they still have to play Cincinnati again, Cleveland again, Seattle, the Chargers, the Rams, who I think are pretty good, the Jaguars, the Niners, the Dolphins, and the Steelers again. Their schedule is a gauntlet. People who think the Ravens are good are out of their freaking minds. I'm sorry, I'm ranting about this because I just watched Colin Cowherd put them at number 3 on his power rankings, and I honestly think he's the dumbest person in America right now for saying that. I really do. But I digress. We're better than the Ravens. We are better than the Browns. I don't care. They're 3-2, same record as us, and we should beat them. We might not. We might lose one of those. We probably will lose one of those 2 games, though. And then Commanders, we're better than them. Again, the record says that we're about the same, but we're definitely better. I think we're better than Pittsburgh, same record, but come on, really, Kenny Pickett? And I think we're better than the Tennessee Titans. I think we have to win 3 of those 5 games, but you can afford to lose a couple. You can afford to have a clunker against Cleveland's defense if you need to. As long as but if you lose the games that are must win, then those games in those 5 become must win, right? But you have to win the Cardinals and the Rams game to allow yourself to have the space to lose a clunker in Pittsburgh, if that's what it's going to come down to. And then finally, you have the last 3 games, which are we're probably not going to win, but if we do, then I'll take it, which is the 2 games against the 49ers and the game against the Eagles. Realistically, we're going to lose those 3 games. It sucks that they're all in a row. Because after those 3 games, people are going to think, wow, the Seahawks really suck. Oh, they lost to the 49ers twice and the Eagles. Oh, man, they really stink. They're 9-7, and they lost to the Eagles and the 49ers. Oh, man, the Seahawks are terrible. Just let people be reactionary. I don't even care. It feels so much better to be consistent with my takes and actually be right. Like I sat here before the season started and said we are going 12-5 and winning the division. And right now I still think that I'm going to predict loss to the Ravens, split with the Niners, lose to the Eagles, and maybe a loss to either the Browns or Steelers. So I think 11 or 12 wins. That is where I see the Seattle Seahawks this season. Still, I'm going to be consistent about it. If we lose to the Browns and we fall to 4-3, I'm still going to say we're an 11-win team. I'm still going to put us into my top 10. Because I look at the schedule and I say, when it gets down to it, we're going to go on a run at the end of the season. Titans, Steelers, and our last game is... Who's our last game? Titans, Steelers, Cardinals is our last 3. We're going to win those last 3, and we're going to make the playoffs. We might be 7-7 before those last 3, but until we get to those last 3, I'm not going to back down that we are a playoff team and that we are a top 10 team in the NFL. Don't care what the record says. I watched the product on the field, and I think that is exactly the way I thought it would be in the preseason. So that's my take. I know it's a rough game, but that's the take. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Go Hawks.